Hey, welcome to Adrift. Here we are for episode 10 or 11, or definitely not 12. But here we are. I have my phone all set up. Let me try and think. What am I supposed to do? Guys, help me help you. What am I supposed to do? Well, I usually put a little pluggy thing in here, but this is going to be more of a conversation. So I guess I'll just put hashtag Adrift live series because you guys are on Adrift. But this episode, Rose, here you are. What's up? Hello, hello. I'm going to pin this. Somebody told me I should do stuff like that. Yes. Today's going to be a really cool episode. I just want to make sure I have this set up the right way. I might move this over a little bit. Let's see. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, I like that a lot better. All right. Yes, welcome Rose, welcome Austin Reed. How you doing? How you doing? Today's an awesome episode. Let me invite Rose onto the Adrift. All right, here we go. Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my marvelous friend. How are you?
Good. Let me just get my face the same size kind of as yours.
Definitely. I always want it to be just right. I always want to show people my setup too because it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah. What is
Yeah.
it?
It's I have a light stand, but it has like a T, so it goes over and it's clamped to hold my phone in place. And then I also have an aperture, what is it, an MV or MXL, something like that, but it's a little tiny lighty guy.
Yeah.
And that's what's lighting my face from about 5 feet or so.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah, I have like an LED light on a stand that's bouncing, and there's a window light here too. And so just kind of, but it's like the sun's kind of going down, so.
yeah, I have terrible window light where I'm at, so I have to try and make it something. Like you still see the shadow down here, and there's like a photographer. I'm like, why is that there?
I know, and it's so funny because I lost my little thing that I was using to stabilize my camera on the tripod,
Oh,
and so I have to order a new one. But it's like the one little thing, and because it doesn't. My husband's phone is this different size, so it doesn't work on mine.
I I actually just got a what is it called? Actually, I could probably start using that. It's a clamp that goes onto my bicycle, so I can have my phone like clamped
Oh yeah,
onto
yeah,
the
yeah.
and it so I could actually I don't know why I don't use that moving forward. That would make a lot more sense. Ooh, okay. Ideas.
But I have, instead of that, because I don't have that, I have this on this iPad holder on top of a music stand. It's so bad. But it does the trick, so
Well, what they don't see, it won't hurt them.
yeah.
So we already got a comment, actually. It was by my good friend Berno. I have a feeling you may have met him because he's one of those people who he goes around. But he said that your background is so cool, and I have to agree with that. Absolutely
Oh,
love your.
thank you. Thanks. It's my chair, and I put this. Believe me, I set it up like a photographer. I put the little feathers here and everything. So
I know, and it's very reminiscent of the photos that you've been doing with the framing.
yeah, because I've shot all those pictures here in my living room. So this is, this chair has been in them, the painting, you can't really see it too much, and this uh, dress stand and stuff. So it all makes it in there. Yeah. It's like now this is where I am so much of the time.
I know, but you have such a beautiful decor and such a beautiful eye for creating a composition and a frame and like putting things together to curate those photos. So I definitely want to spend some time talking about that. But I do see some people are joining in, and I wanted to give them the introduction of Rose Callahan, the one and only.
Thank you.
So, but quick question, how is my audio? Because I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
It's fine. It's not super clear, but it's okay. It's totally fine.
Okay, cool. You actually sound great,
Okay,
so
cool.
that should be good. I hear myself though. I do hear an echo.
Hmm.
Are you using a headphone or something of the like?
No, I have it plugged in to the power. That's about it.
Hmm.
I'll try.
Maybe I'm
I'll try taking it out just to see if that. I don't know why that would change anything, but
okay.
it sounds a little bit like just not super clear. Now I hear a little bit of mine. Oh, that's weird. Okay.
You hear it a little bit.
Yeah.
I just I turned my volume down because maybe that could have been some of the feedback, but I think it's a little better now.
Okay.
I don't hear me anymore, so that's good.
Okay.
But introducing Rose Callahan, the one and only, because we have a lot to talk about today. So,
Okay, cool.
Rose Callahan, to everybody on Adrift, you are a New York-based photographer and director focusing on character-driven portraits of cultural tastemakers. Her portraits celebrate individuality and transformative power of style. In fact, two coffee table books of Rose's portraits were published by Gestaltlin and co-authored by Nathaniel Adams. And they're both titled I Am Dandy and We Are Dandy. The books profile a diverse curation of men around the globe for whom dressing is elevated to an art form. Rose works with commercial clients such as American Express, MasterCard, Levi's, and many more. And I say many more because the list very truly goes on and on. You have worked with so many people, it's amazing. You've actually even been featured in a lot of places, including Luomo Vogue, Esquire, Cartier Art, and again, many, many more. But most notably, you've been the exclusive photographer for the Metropolitan Opera, the style blog Last Night at the Met, and you have documented the diverse personal style of the audience since 2013. Your photographs have been exhibited at RISD Museum in Providence, Rhode Island, and featured in the ongoing traveling exhibit for the Museum of Contemporary Photography. And it's titled Dandelion in Chicago, San Francisco, Miami, and Brighton, and UK. So, Rose, we welcome you to Adrift.
Thank you.
And thank everybody else for joining as well. We're going to be talking about a lot today, but if anybody has questions or you want any particular feedback on some of your own thoughts, feel free to comment and we'll try and get to you. In fact, Berno, as she sips, lol, I love it. The intro is definitely something that happens when you work hard. Yeah, Berno, he's a hard worker, so he appreciates that. So let's get into it. I want to jump into the portraits and then get into the psychology because when I first saw the portraits that you've been putting on your Instagram, they just blew my mind. Like I was in a place where I wanted to create, but I didn't want to do the remote thing because I couldn't conceive of a way to put my own stamp on it. It just didn't feel me. And then I saw your portraits, which they seem to superimpose the remote images into frames that you have then taken a photo of, and you curate the look of them. And it gives it like this. I can't even explain it. It's just such a beautiful look, and it's just such a brilliant execution as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So the project that I have been creating during, this lockdown time is called the Faraway Nearby. And
Wow.
it's, what it is I'm projecting the image from the Zoom chat that I'm having with whoever I'm photographing, and I'm projecting it into my space, and creating a still life around it. And what's been so fun about that is I kind of started out like where you were at. Like I didn't know how would I make pictures again, and how would I, you know, get close to people again in portraiture in the way that I had before. And so and like you, I looked at like remote shooting and I thought about it and I was like, oh, the quality, how can you make it look good? And I was inspired by this one photographer, Damien Hirst, not Damien Hirst, Damien Frost, a UK photographer, and he was doing these really simple FaceTime portraits that kind of included a frame around it, and just on his like iPad or something, he would kind of frame around the iPad. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then I was like, how can I do this myself? Like, how could I put my own stamp on it? And then I remembered that me and my husband have this projector, this little teeny projector. Mm-hmm. And when I thought about like being able to project the image that I was like in real time, kind of like the actual photo shoot, mm-hmm. anywhere in my space, I just got super excited. Ooh. And so it just kind of like went from there. You know, when I started thinking about like bringing them into my space and kind of like, I don't know, it just became like these little portals, you know, like a magical portal into the world of this person that is confined, and I'm confined too. So it was like really conceptually interesting to me. And you know, and it's progressed. Like now we're not as confined, but it kind of still remains a lot. I mean, we're still going through all of this. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the trajectory of what was happening with that shoot. But it's been a lot of fun and also really, really challenging technically. So
absolutely. Well, I just want to say you also have such an intimate relationship with the people that you photograph. Like, I notice similar faces as I go through the feed, and it's not always the same, but I do notice that these people are very close to you. And so how do you, again, capture that sort of intimacy during a time period where you can't really have that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So in this project, I have photographed a lot of the people that I already know, because kind of like I just wanted to hang out with them. So mm-hmm. we would set up these shoots, and they probably wanted, you know, they wanted a reason to dress up. So it's been just like the pure like process of it has been really nice, because it's me connecting back with these people that I love and know and have photographed several times, most of them. But then I also photographed a fair amount of people that I don't see all the time, and some new people, like this one couple from Australia that I've always wanted to photograph. And so this was like the perfect time, because don't think I'm going to be going to Australia anytime soon. And this was like, I can actually photograph them. This is wonderful. So it's kind of interesting, like the whole world opened up a little bit. Like I could photograph anybody that I might have gotten connected with somehow, from all over the world. You know, it's interesting in that respect, you know. But I think, you know, it kind of, the basis is like I'm photographing these people that I love and know. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it was funny, I was thinking about it, and from how we know each other, you know, we've been photographing events and we photograph different things, one of them being Manhattan Vintage. And I just feel like anytime I'm around you, it immediately becomes an event. It's an event. It's like a little event. It's just like your space is so exciting to be around. And so I look at the photos, and like you were saying, people are getting dressed up. People are putting their makeup on. People are getting ready. And it's like, I think about the time that those people, your subjects, took to get themselves prepared, and how exciting that must have felt like during a time where we don't get to really do that anymore, you know?
Yeah, big time. Oh my God. And I mean, really, like my whole like extended family and also group of people that I've photographed, and my subject matter is all people that it's like style is really a part of their life. Mm-hmm. And so for them and me, like this is a time when you really, you aren't getting dressed up. There's no events to go to. Like we all in New York, you know, I would go out to events and like see friends all the time. And they're always like dress up events. So that's always a part of what we're doing. So this was, you know, this is really a time when you don't have that reason anymore. Like you just like, I mean, style kind of, I don't know. It's not that it's not meaningful anymore. It's just, it is sometimes a big part of socializing. And so it's definitely given a lot of the people that I photographed like a good reason. It's like, okay, we're doing a photo shoot. Get dressed up. Like that's a reason to get dressed up. It's like.
And that actually segues into talking about psychology in the arts because, there's so many different ways to kind of look at how that intercorrelation works. So now that we're talking about style, that's one of them. I've heard a lot of people saying, especially when we were really in the throes of COVID, like, I may not be going to work anymore. My routine is out the window. So that waking up, that taking a shower, that brushing your teeth, that getting into that sort of uniform element, if you will, all that kind of got thrown out of the window. And it made a lot of people realize how important that sort of ritual of preparing yourself was.
Yeah.
Very fabric. And I'm just looking at you right now and you look fantastic. Like you've done yourself up. I gave myself, of course, a little straight edge beard here, but you really take it there,
Thank you. But really, like, I put on the lipstick and did the makeup and everything. Like, this is not what I'm doing every day.
Well, so I provided you a reason, right?
Yeah, you gave me a reason.
And I've honestly have been really a lot more kind of belligerent about how I've approached creativity during COVID. And I say that because I was almost like, I just, like I said, I didn't want to do the whole remote thing. So I was like, well, I have a 70 to 200 lens. So it's not outside the realm of possibility for me to go into a very open space with a subject and be far away from them enough that they could hear me, but I could still shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of became a cool form of expression because it challenged me. I usually like to shoot very close. I like to go wide angle. I like to be like really, and I like to be able to almost, engage with the person.
Yeah.
So this became kind of strange because it was a reflection of, in a sense, that sort of, again, that COVID element where I was no longer close to the person and I had to figure out new ways to engage while not being super close. And that was different. That was definitely a different experience.
Yes, it's very challenging. Sure, for sure. I haven't done any real life shoots with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way you would be Brooklyn? How would you even be able to navigate that?
What do you mean?
Because it's like impossible to not be around somebody in New York.
Oh, well, I just am home a lot.
Okay.
Shooting, like doing a photo shoot. I haven't done any like in-person photo shoots since this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You've been able to work your way around it. For me, I was very belligerent about it. I was just like, we're going to shoot one way or another. I'm just going to do as much precautionary things as I can to still make it happen.
Yeah, and I think that's complete. That's like, it's possible for sure. For sure. I think most of the time, if it's just you and the person you're photographing and you guys can be distanced, it's definitely possible. I think it's really not the highest risk thing. I think when you start to get like in the studio and in with a bunch of people and like bigger productions, that's when it would be difficult to be like really, really safe with it. But I'm glad you've still been creating, doing shoots.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you actually. So like, just like a little nerd talk for the people out there. I went out today. A little nerd talk, I went out today and I got the Godox 8600, which is a 600 watt flash. It's not consistent lighting. And I did that because if I'm going to be shooting further away from people, I'm going to need more power. I need more power. So guys, everybody who's listening, when it comes to photography, you need powerful lights, especially if you're going to shoot in the daytime.
Yeah,
so
big time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because if you just use like a regular light, it's not going to be strong enough. So I was thinking, it's not terribly expensive. It was like $550. And I was like, I already have the triggers, I already have the system. Like, why not? You know, why not? So
Yeah.
that's our nerd talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like opened up a lot of kind of technical questions about photography.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
was
like
just
how do you light your scenarios with the portraits? I mean, that's the new challenge, isn't it? How do you get somebody to light it well?
you mean the remote pictures?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so far it's been mostly natural light, and sometimes people have had lights, but for the most part, it's kind of, yeah, it's more like a daylight thing and kind of working with the daylight. But I was just researching today different ways to do like technology and apps that could help kind of like basically trying to figure out how to capture images from somebody's camera remotely,
Mhm.
which is
Ah,
definitely like it's possible. And there's some photographers that are doing that now, like capturing through the person's phone, the actual
mhm.
phone, or like through their camera. Like if they have a Wi-Fi connected camera, then you can kind of you can probably like tether it to some kind of software, and then do some
Hmm.
like so anyways, that's what I'm researching, because I think, then you could get really high quality images
Mhm.
remotely, and it's people are doing that now. It's just how can like I want to be able to offer clients something that's very substantial, because right now, like what I've done with the Faraway Nearby is very, it's just like close to the heart, and it's very personal. It's quite different than what I've been doing before, which is like going into people's homes and documenting them in portraits, and about their style, and seeing them in their interiors, and then also at the opera, doing like portraits of them, like style portraits in the space of the opera. So like I really don't know when I'm going to be able to do that again. That
I
that's
know I miss it so
I
much.
mean, the Mets season is gone. Next season they're not doing it. I like I'm sure, me going into people's homes, it could happen slowly but surely, but it's such close contact with somebody. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what are the other ways. Like, could I do this remote shooting
Mm.
thing? Like
Well, I
even
think you
more
could in like
efficient.
a biohazard suit if you were just like.
But then, I mean, traveling. I was supposed to
Okay.
be shooting in Paris and London in May for this new book that I'm working on with Natty, the author that I've worked with. And we're
Mhm.
doing a book that's all on women with really amazing style, kind of like a follow up to the Dandy books.
Love it.
So we had that all planned, and I was going to do all this shooting, and that's what I was like working on crazy till like right up till we had to go into lockdown. And so all of this has really changed. And so, when I think about like not being able to travel at all, or it's quite difficult, and would be a lot more expensive to travel because you'd have to stay longer and whatever. There's like probably a lot of things. Anyway, so I'm just like trying to think like, okay, what's the future?
Mhm.
you know?
Well, I do have to say, because the honest truth of how I'm starting to look at this is more from the art perspective. If I can't if I can't go places to photograph for campaigns and photograph as much for commercial work, there are other projects that I could work on that I think from an artistic space I can start, viewing things from that angle.
Yes.
In fact, that's kind of more of where I'm looking to go based on what's been going on. And it's funny because again, and you kind of brought up earlier that you wanted to talk a little bit about the psychology of art. And part of the reason for me doing that transition, even though, when the events come back, like I'm still going to do it, but part of my transition into doing more of a fine art sort of approach was because more so I needed it. You know, I needed that sort of creative outlet, and I needed to sort of express what it is that I've been going through and sort of my philosophies about where we are as a people, as a society. Because there's only so much that I can really say to convey a message, but you look at a photo or you look at a photo story, and it completely just immerses you in this whole other world. And I think escapism is something that's really kind of important for a lot of people right now. Like, we're kind of stuck in this purgatory, if you will. Like, are we here? Are we not? Are we done? Are we not done? Like, are we opening up? Are we closing up? Like, we're just stuck in this strange purgatory. And I feel like your portraiture is also a reflection of that sort of disconnection. It's a response to that disconnect. It's like we as people need to connect with one another, and that's your way of doing it. I have my way of doing it, and hopefully other people on here will be inspired to discover their way of doing it.
Yes, I hope so. I mean, doing the Faraway Nearby, I mean, it really is very like satisfying to do, because it wasn't for money. It was just purely to make images, and I was really, really excited about the possibilities, and I could see the possibilities, and like that was just so wonderful. Like, it just really bolstered me to think that, oh, you know, this is like gonna be beautiful, and you know, I could make it interesting and aesthetically cool for myself. So doing, and also connecting with people. So
Yes.
really, it's like I could be like, hey, do you want to FaceTime? And yeah,
What else are you doing?
we could do that, and that's fine. But it's like, no, let's do a photo shoot, you know, and it's like a document of the time. And I don't know, it just like really worked on a lot of different levels, which was really, really fun. And it's just really of this moment, which is nice. I think it's important to document.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, because I was watching this this YouTube video, so I try and do like a little bit of research on like the topics that we'll talk about. And I was listening to an art therapist talking about the meditative nature of creating art. And so as you're saying this, I'm kind of thinking about what it takes to sort of plan Faraway Nearby, right? That's the name of the series. I just want to make sure I get it right. What it takes to kind of, maybe you plan, maybe you don't, but I see you there setting up the set design, essentially. You know, you're setting up the frame, you're putting, let's say, feathers, you're making sure a scarf is somewhere, maybe there's some jewelry, and you know, there's like a certain blossoming of a flower coming in, you know, like all of these different little components. You had to sit there and think about what went where. And so as you're telling me this, I'm thinking about that sort of meditative process and what that must have done for you.
Oh, it's so cool that you mentioned that, because actually it started to become like a big deal for it, because what I started to do was try to customize everything about the kind of surrounding still life in my space as much as I could for the person that I was photographing. And that was just like so wonderful to be able to like think about what this person likes and what their vibe is and their style, and to be able to incorporate that. And like I said, because it wasn't for anything other than just the joy of doing this, then I could just like do whatever I wanted, which is nice. And I love the idea of like very, very customized things. I think it's like such a beautiful way to respect somebody, and you know, like you really thought about like what's going to go into this scene and stuff like that, not just in photography, but I think in other things, like for example, like suits or clothing, or you know, going to a bar and getting like a beautiful customized drink, or so, you know, like there's a lot of ways that customization is. And but I loved that I could really spend a lot of time on this and think about the person a lot, especially if it's somebody that I know really well. But I could even, if I've done research, I could even incorporate those things into the image if it's somebody that I didn't know. So yeah, that was like wonderful. And this whole process of doing these pictures is much slower, very much slower. And that's a huge shift for me, because I am somebody that I've gotten to this point where it's like, I can be really quick. Like, I'm very fast at taking pictures and getting what I need to get. And I don't love that mentality. I feel like I became that way because being in the commercial world, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to go in and get something in 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something. And I don't like that. Like, that's not the best way to get something. Like, yeah, that's cool. Like, okay, cool. You have, it is what it is. But
yeah, you get the jump.
If you're going to talk about just artwork and portraits and what's pleasing, that's not the way it is. No. For me, no. I think like spending more time with somebody, when I think about the people I've photographed and the best subjects and the best kind of like combination of that is people that I've gotten to photograph over time, that I, just to like develop a relationship with. I mean, it's a lot of factors, but definitely like being quick is not the best thing.
It's not. No, it's not.
I mean, there's a part of me that like, that is who I am. Like, I like to get in, like when I'm doing a portrait, it sometimes is good to be quick because like you get people before they're aware of something. And I like that. But if it's like, but it impedes me sometimes if I'm just like, okay, I have to be really quick. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, because then it becomes there's almost a monotony to it, because you're not thinking about what can be done. You're thinking about, I've already done this, so here's some poses, here's some things that I've already done. Here's the format. Let's go get it done. And I actually feel that way very much, and that's why even again, like, I was finding myself getting closer and closer to being a part of the art world. Not the art world, I'm sorry, the fashion world. And I still do my campaign shoots and I'm still into it, but it was that very same issue that I was facing, that it was always a deadline, and it's almost like they didn't care as much about, they cared more about the end result than the end result, if that makes sense. Like, they just wanted it done. And I'm personally not that kind of a person. I'm very slow moving. I'm very much like, I want to think about things. I want to process things. And I also care about how people feel. And that's something that I also get from you. I notice that you're a very giving person. And that's what seems so interesting about Faraway Nearby, is that it's a gift to these people. It's a gift to your friends. It's a gift to the people around you. And I also want to continue to treat photography as that before I wind up stuck in this place where I'm just doing it for the paycheck, or doing it for a reputation, or, for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I think it is really important to think about like doing, even if you're doing commercial work, still always doing work that you care about. And for me, the 2 books that I have all came from doing work that I cared about. That was a completely personal project that I was doing that became something. It became these books, and it was like a 10-year project. And, so I think it is really important to do those things. Like, when I look back at least so far. I'm not, done yet.
So far, I like that. I like it a lot.
So
Yay, Rose. We got a yay, Rose, by the way. Yay, Rose.
Jamala. Oh my God, Jamala, I was just looking at pictures from the first dandelion exhibit. Oh my God. That was awesome. So I don't know, where was I?
The books that they were projects of passion, and that's how they came.
Right. So when I look back, it's like, those are the things I'm proud of, you know. So yes, you have to pay the rent, of course. You got to find a way to pay the rent.
I suppose.
But you, as artists, photographers, especially commercial artists of any kind, you really do have to do something that is like feeding you artistically, and that can become something. Really, that's usually what you're putting forward, and you're hoping to kind of get those same kind of jobs, right? And it can happen. Yeah, it can happen. But it's like, you got to work on something you love, you know, otherwise.
I would actually love to dissect what you just said a little bit more, because one of my anxieties that I've dealt with has been looking at other artists and being very, what's the word, like being kind of in awe of their ability to create this body of work that seems consistent. And the more that I've looked into it, the more that I realize that the stories are very similar to how you're explaining. They're never really like, I'm just doing this thing. It's always more of a journey. It's always more of an exploration. And it isn't until they find something that they truly are like, this is the thing that I can't let go of, that it starts becoming a body of work. And so I say that because I think ultimately the goal isn't to create a body of work. I feel like that's you're thinking about it backwards. Like, I want to create a body of work. No, your work will become that body of work at the time when it should so become that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Right? It just seems to kind of come together. Like this art gallery that I want to do, it was a project. It was actually one project, but it was a story that I conceived that I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. And the reason why I came up with the story, which has kind of grown into this complete other thing, it's so much more full. But the reason why I did it initially was because I was tired of the world I was tired of the way that I was perceiving the world. I was tired of the grind of life. I was tired of looking at it as it's just another day of life. And so when I put it into a whole concept, I realized and started showing it to people before, I planned to maybe release it. I started getting the feedback that said to me that they understood how I felt and that they also felt that way. So I found that to be really invigorating, because up until that point, I hadn't really created something that I felt I could call a project or like we were talking about, a body of work. But that just kind of happened. I just have shot so much that this project was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely how it happens, for sure. I mean, when you said you're starting a gallery?
I'm not personally starting a gallery, but I have somebody who just opened a gallery, and she's done a couple other projects with artists, and she found my work, and we've connected through some mutual people. And so when I showed her this project, which again, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this thing. Maybe I'll submit it. Maybe I'll do this. And she was like, no, we have to print these large and do an actual showing. And I was like, okay.
Cool.
I was like, this was like, okay.
Cool. That's great.
But I say that, and I'm very excited, because one, it's my first gallery showing, but I'm excited because it actually feels like a piece of me, and that same meditative process that you're talking about with Faraway Nearby, that same process that any person who's exploring the arts deals with, was the process that kind of found me by mistake. You know, like I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And then the aha moment happens and you're just like, wait, this is really good for me. This is really healthy for me because I need to expel these feelings. I need to expel this sentiment and conjure it into this ultimate project and put these into paper.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. Rad. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, I think like my experience with doing creative work is that there's a point where it just feels like it could go on and on and on, and it's like all the creative possibilities are there. It's like you unlock a drawer or something, and you can see like, oh my god, it's there. Like, there's this and that. Like, there's just a lot in it.
Yes.
And that's how I felt with when I started the Dandies. Like, I mean, definitely it happened really organically, and but I could see that there was so much there. So, and right before I started that project, I remember thinking, wow, I'd really like to work on a long-term project. I was like, because I hadn't really done that. And so I was like, yeah, that would be really cool. And then that ended up happening. And of course, I didn't know that that was what it was at the time. And it happened like really slowly at first, and then just kind of organically happened. And I mean, there's a lot in there. there's a whole story in there, but and then what was interesting is when it was the end. That was really interesting because, like, how do you end a project? Like, it doesn't really end. I mean, like, of course I'm still interested in that, and I'm like, it's a part of me, but like there was a certain point where I was like, okay, I think it's done. I think it's done, But that was like harder, I think, than the beginning, because you're like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And I had to go through a lot of soul searching, like, well, okay, what is the seed from the Dandies that is really interesting, and what does that mean for other subjects, So, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt when I decided to leave the psychology field.
Oh, yeah.
Is I was excited because of this realm of possibility that I had no idea what would come next, but the fear of what's next. I didn't have an answer at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And to what you were saying, starting photography wasn't hard. Continuing photography in the beginning even wasn't that hard. I think the hard part came when I realized that this is what I was choosing to do for the rest of my life, and then COVID hit, which was like, oh, okay. So it was almost like a curveball. It was like, all right, you've got your stride, you know what you're doing, and then COVID hit, and it was like, so what are you going to do now? And it was just like, I'm going to keep going. I might also do the Adrift live series and, have these conversations, because this is my version of trying to seek intimacy with people that I've connected with already. And perhaps even new people who I've actually made like some really fantastic friends through doing Adrift and just reaching out to people and being like, hey, you want to chat for an hour about something that we can ultimately decide on?
Yeah, I know. It's been really interesting the way, like, connecting with people has changed big time. That's so interesting. So interesting. And, like, being able to photograph people that I've never met in, like, a totally different continent. I mean, just to, like, riff off of that, like, that's so cool. I love it. Yeah.
It's almost like this is what having telephone calls used to feel like.
Although I don't want to talk to anybody on the phone.
I've had the most like 5-hour conversations since COVID hit than I have in the entirety of my life, I think.
Really? On the telephone?
Yeah, like just sitting there, like twiddling with my fingers and my feet like against the wall and just like, and, but you know what? My conversations are always kind of like this, though. That's another reason why I was like, I should probably do something about this because I'm already doing this, you know? Like I'm already having these kind of conversations with people, like diving deep and trying to understand like, like what their approach to shifting in this new paradigm would be like. That's like even before COVID happened, I was always asking and interested in how people sort of maneuver and how people perceive the world because I think it's through other people that you find answers to questions that you're not capable of answering yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. That's what these phone calls have been, you know, with people who are close to me. Yeah. People who are close to me, people who have gotten closer. Very wild. I really, I just need to jump on this a little longer because I really feel like to go back to this concept of meditation, were it not for this virus, I think a lot of people would not have given themselves the opportunity to reflect and reevaluate where they are, who they are, what their goals are, what they want to achieve, what they value in life. I think all of those questions at some point for just about everybody surfaced. And you had to face them because for the most part you were at home and you were for the most part alone.
Yeah.
Rose is like, wow, this is deep, man.
Oh, no, so massively, that's exactly what's happening. Like, the funny thing is, you know, I had already been like, because I was talking about like how I like ended the Dandy project. So I had already thought so much about like, okay, where do I want to go from here? Like, you know, what's going to happen next? And so the new book, which is called Rare Birds. So that's like the working title. So
I love that name, by the way. Rare Birds. Yeah.
I know. I love it too. I love it too. I just love thinking about like people as just like having like infinite beautiful plumage and all the variety and beauty, you know, that comes. Like I love that too. Like and so the Rare Birds was what was coming next, you know, and I was like, finally I'd committed to it. Like there had been like this whole like it had happened. It was like a long process. And I was like so full force. I was just like shooting every single day, sometimes twice a day. And then COVID hit. And it was like literally like on March 16th was the last shoot that I did because I was photographing all the people in New York first and I was going to go to Europe and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't go anywhere, huh? Like I shouldn't get on the subway or ride in a, you know, Lyft or something.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, and it took a whole month for me to get creative again. So the Faraway Nearby like didn't happen very quickly. It was, I was, you know, in shock for at least a month.
As was I. Same. Yeah. Depressed, mourning the life that we left behind. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And now it's just, and it's gone through many waves of this in this time. Like, so I was very, very super creative between like April 15th and, no, it was more like April and May. I was very, very creative. And then like all the protests started happening. I was just like, okay, time to like reflection time, interior time. Like I was like, and I just didn't feel like creating anything, you know? And so it's just been these waves of like, okay, cool. And then anxiety. And you know,
it has. And you know, that's why I really think that as artists and as people who, you know, I don't mean to say this in like a tooting our horn sort of way, but like as people who others have looked up to, I feel like it's okay and even actually incredibly important right now to be transparent that like not everybody has the answers to what's going on, you know, and like and even to say like thus far, the only answer I can really say that I unequivocally have is that it is time to reflect and that it really is time to reconsider, you know, and that's not to say like, you know, if you're a makeup artist, should you stop doing that? I don't mean to say that at all. I mean to say, what else could you do? How else could you reinvigorate or fulfill your life so that it continues to have meaning during this? And again, not in a way that removes what you want to continue doing, but there's something that I think we've all been missing. And that's also what my project's been about is we, not we as in, you know, you and I, but I think as a society, we kind of reached like a kind of a plateau, you know, like a sort of creative plateau. I think that we kind of reached a place where we were on a high, we were super excited, and, you know, we were ready for this next stage, but we had no idea that the next stage was not an external experience, but an internal one. And I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. You know, when you see like Instagram that was like, oh, 2020 is canceled. Like, no, it's not. This could easily be one of my favorite years given how I'm approaching it. And that's all. And given how society is approaching it, because when you look at the protests, what do you see? I see reflection. You know, I see growth as a people.
As long
And
as,
so the art,
you know,
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't want people to get killed, but I mean, it's important. Like, it's amazing that it's brought to the top in the forefront. Yeah.
Mm. Like the art that's going to come out of this, and I really wholeheartedly include yours as well, because I really think personally, just between you and me and the other people who are on this live stream, I see these pieces being a book as well, you know, and I see these pieces being an installation at some point because it is such a reflection on what's been happening, how people have felt, and new ways to connect with people in a place where we weren't allowed the space to, you know.
I mean, it's so transformed how we connect with people, like just almost overnight. I mean, how important technology is, you know, like this and all the other ways. And I can see that because of this situation, technology is going to really amp up in terms of like these kind of apps or whatever, like video chat, like the remote shooting. Oh my God. If they're not already getting on it, get on it, because they gotta get on it. Like it's a huge,
Like, do it.
a huge market. Okay.
For those of you who are not listening, that is a pro tip right there from a real pro. Get on it.
Yes. But yeah, like, so technology has completely changed. And also what I've realized is like my idea of home has completely become so different. Like, I feel like people would always say like, oh, well, home is where I feel comfortable and I blah, blah, blah. And I never really felt like that, I guess. Like, home is my sanctuary. That never was. I'm like, okay, cool. It's my home. Yeah, cool. But now it's like, it is the only place you feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
You come in and you don't have to worry. And I have a backyard, thank heavens, me and my husband. And I've been gardening. And I have this, oh yeah. Oh, I am so into gardening.
Show me those green thumbs. Mine's red, but yours is probably green. Ah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh my God. Like, I'm just, it's huge for me. Like even before this, like it was really a time where I started to really like do tons of gardening and vegetable gardening and flowers and stuff. But like, it's just the ultimate sanctuary. And I realize how privileged I am to have that, because not many New Yorkers have outdoor space, like, you know, rarely even a balcony. So we have a backyard, and so I've been able to spend time there, and I can go out in the green not wear a mask and worry about seeing other people. I mean, like, this is like the ultimate luxury. And,
Mhm.
and like, it is the only place I feel safe, you know? And that's huge.
Yeah, I was going to say the word that came to mind for me was powerful, because there it was this entire time, and now you can fully appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, and we've lived here for about 4 years. We rent, and we didn't really do anything with the backyard until like last year. And so now I'm like, why weren't we doing all this stuff, you know? But
I
hey,
love it.
everything in its own time, you know.
Absolutely. The one of my mentors, and I may have said this in a past live stream, but I absolutely love this phrase. He always said, "Don't get crazy with crazy," and I love that. It's so simple. So I believe we are down to our last 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure that, for anything that was coming up, I know you mentioned a few things already, but if there's anything coming up, if there's anything you'd like to share about what Rose Callahan is doing, please share.
Well, I already shared about the book, the upcoming book that I'm doing, which
Rare Birds, working title.
working title. So it's with the same publisher as the two Dandy books, and it's basically just on hold. They seem really like, I mean, they want to still do the book, which is amazing, but it's, they're in Berlin. They're like a little more chill than American publishers, and so they're just like, okay, well, when we can start doing it again, like, so it's about, I guess, probably would be next fall would be the target date if we can start traveling again anytime soon to Europe.
Please.
So that's happening, and that's still huge, and it's really wonderful to have that on the horizon, and just like another way to think about, documenting style, which is really kind of like my life's work, I feel like. And so that's the big thing on the horizon. And then I think just doing the same, I'm going to continue with the Faraway Nearby. And
I can't wait to see what happens.
remote shooting, see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, it is like a massive time of reflection. I mean, believe me, I've thought about like, okay, what if I don't do photography anymore? But the thing is, I keep on coming back to like, this is who I am. This is what I've done my whole entire life. Since I was 10 years old, I've been learning about photography. So, and I've done it for 15, 20 years commercially in New York. So this is who I am. Like, this is my, my skill set and like world. So it's changed and it's transforming, and I have to really think about how I will transform with it. But it is who I am, and my art will have to continue, I guess.
I just want to applaud you, and I want to applaud any of the other artists out there who are sticking to what they're doing. It's just really a testament to how important this is for yourself, for the people around you, and I just really want to applaud that, because I think it's easy to give up, and it's easy to want to give up when everything around you seems to be crumbling. Institutions, the society that we've known, the way of life that we've had, everything just seems to be crumbling. So to be able to have the strength to say, this is who I am and I'm going to stay true to that, is an absolute testament. So I hope everybody heard that. I hope everybody is inspired by that. I am. And I'm just so excited to have been able to talk to you for a little bit. Next time we're chat, we don't necessarily have to plan it. I just want to keep up with you, make sure everything's going well. And I thank you. Any last comments?
Thank you, Fresco. You got such good energy. I mean, and you do great work. So, like, please continue on. Like, and I hope that we get to do the vintage show again and meet up with, see each other in New York City and all that stuff again.
Always, absolutely. And actually, just because we mentioned it, the Vintage Show at the Vintage Show is still doing vintage takeovers on their IG Live, so definitely check those out for all the dealers who are still selling. at The Vintage Show. Check them out. Last 20 seconds. Rose, I absolutely cherish you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for
And
having me.
anytime.